The first major tournament of the year takes place on the sandy shores of Paradise Island in the Bahamas. This, the 2009 PCA, is the big one. $3 million for the winner, but a 1,400-strong field of world-class players to get through.
I'm going to win this tournament, and I'm going to win every tournament ever from now on. And if I don't win, I'm going to keep playing until I win.
Will the sun go to their heads?
It's like half running over a door.
Or perhaps the crystal-clear waters will keep them cool. As adventure turns into nightmare for some,
So close.
one player will be living the Caribbean dream.
Welcome to Paradise, home over the years to pirates, rum smugglers, blockade dodgers, and this week, over 1,000 swashbuckling poker players.
Just got off the beach, so good time to come play poker.
I'm excited.
There's only room for one winner, and he's standing right here.
How you doing?
Dealers, shuffle up and deal.
1,347 of the world's best players entered this, the biggest poker tournament ever held outside of Vegas, creating a prize pool of over $12.6 million. The top 199 finishers cash, with the winner eventually taking home a staggering $3 million. But we're a long way from first place right now. 32 players remain. Faces to look out for include last year's runner-up Hafiz Khan.
This year, you guys won't be seeing me bust out with 9-3 offsuit, you know, which is that's what I went all in with against LT last year. So I'm going for the win.
UK pro and TV star Vicky Corn is short-stacked.
I wouldn't know what to do with a big stack if I had one. You know, it's just messy, you know what I mean? Just piles of chips and counter. I like, you know, small, maneuverable stack. That's what I'm used to. Doesn't matter anyway. A couple of double ups, I'd be chip leader.
Poker cat Kathy Liebert was the first female ever to win $1 million in poker. Can she triple that here?
$3 million, you know, that's the goal here. I feel confident, I feel good. You know, you got to get lucky in these tournaments, but with a little luck and a little skill, got a good chance.
Your commentators are Ali Najad and Daniel Negreanu.
Thanks, Kara. Inside the Atlantis for the 10K main event of the PCA. 32 players of our original field of over 1,300 remain in search of that $3 million first place prize. And it is beautiful outside. What are we doing indoors?
Well, I know what they're doing indoors. They're trying to win themselves a piece of that $3 million first prize. You know, in hand one that we see here, a pair of tens for Pastor. Certainly enough to raise. He's going to come in for one in early position.
Queen 10 suited for Chen from Canada, who resists the temptation. Disciplined fold.
Hafiz Khan, he's had some success, as we've seen on the European Poker Tour. Everyone playing very conservative early on here.
25,000 chip raise.
All the way over to Vicky Corn, who's in the big blind.
Vicky's going to re-raise, make it 208,000 total.
Well, she's got bad timing, as it turns out. She's re-raising here with the 2 6s.
She's not playing small ball.
No, certainly not. Trying to protect her little pair. Unfortunately for her, Pastor has a bigger pair, but he's got to worry a little bit too. Maybe, you know, she's got jacks or better. Nope.
It's time to see the Dolphins. Go on,
Vicky's
then.
going to make the call.
Got tens.
No, that's good at the moment.
All right, Vicky
Sees
is
the bad news here.
She's covered. She has
Really up
pocket
against
sixes.
it.
Jason has pocket tens. Let's see the flop,
Vicky
please.
Corn actually has Jason Pastor
Flop is
slightly
4
covered
ace
here.
jack,
Looks good.
4
Well,
of
that's not a good
diamonds,
flop for
ace of
Vicky
spades,
Corn.
Jack of spades.
She's going to need to catch a 6 on the turn of the river. Spade's no good to her, as you see Pastor has a bigger spade in his hand.
I don't think
Yeah.
so.
I apologize. Jason is the at-risk player.
You think I'm not at risk? All my chips are in. I've got 2 6s, ace, jack, 4.
Vicky is
Well,
behind.
Vicky's saying that
She's behind.
if she loses this
However,
pot,
if the hand finishes,
she'll
I might get
be down to
2,000
just
back.
24,000 in
she will have
chips.
remaining.
Marvelous.
So
Jason's the
essentially,
at-risk player with the tens.
she'll have 1
Turn
foot out
card,
the door and on her way to go see those Dolphins she's talking
Turns the
about.
queen
Yes,
of
sir.
spades.
Queen of spades on the turn. No help to Vicky.
Well, this
Vicky's
gives
gonna need
Pastor
to
a
find
royal
one of the 2
flush draw
remaining
also.
sixes in the deck.
Not like he needs it.
Let's see the river.
And the river card is, close, but not quite the 6 that Vicky needed, the 5 of diamonds.
We're going to do a little chip count here, and you're going to find that Vicky Corrin's going to be left with just 24,000 in chips after the count. So with the blinds as high as they are, Vicky's pretty much going to be forced to gamble it up with any kind of hand she picks up.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I thought I was just a little lower than you. 371.5.
It's like half running over a dog.
Jason's all in with 371,500.
I'm going to stay standing up to play my small blind just to make it fun.
She's got some chips left.
Just a tiny gasp of air left in her stack.
The tournament is as good as mine.
That's going to pretty much force her in with any 2 cards here. So essentially, she was all in for the most part.
Chip in a chair, though. That's the famous poker saying.
Well, anything is possible, just unlikely.
You get a good look at a healthy stack there in front of the American David Baker.
He's got a Jack 10.
He makes it 42-5 to go.
It's going to be tough for Vicky, who's in the small blind now, has already got chips invested to fold virtually any 2 cards. And, well, she's got Queen 9. She's actually got Baker beat right now. I think Baker makes a small mistake here, even playing the 10-Jack, knowing that, you know, Vicky had to play no matter what.
Jason in the big blind.
The action's going to be on Jason Pastor. In the big blind, he's actually going to fold.
I'm actually in
Ace-6 of clubs.
I'm in front.
Could have made the call there. Now, Vicky happy to see the news.
Vicky has a queen of spades and
Her queen high in the lead right now.
Let's see the flop, please.
She's a small favorite heading into the flop.
10, 3, 8, 10 of spades.
Well, interesting flop here. You see Baker's flop top pair. Vicky says, I'm generous. Give the man 2 pair. Of course, that would make Vicky a straight to the queen.
Let's see the turn card, please.
Well, the king is no help. Vicky down to just 1 card. It's going to have to be a queen or a jack, or she'll be eliminated.
Here it is.
It's a jack.
It's the jack.
She makes the straight. Baker makes 2 pair.
What am I going to do with the 3 million? That's the question. What am I going to spend it on when I'm
She's already counting it. She's counting her 3 million. She's got some work to do just yet.
New lease on life for British Vicky Corrin.
Welcome back to the Festival of Poker, coming to you from Atlantis Paradise Island in the baking Bahamas sunshine. We're well into the action at the PCA main event. Currently, just 30 players remain out of the 1,300-strong starting field. We have a lot of Americans sitting at table 1 with big stacks, including our tourney chip leader by a mile, Kevin Saul. On to table 2, which features one of the last 3 remaining ladies, Elizabeth Bennett Martin, and team pro Alex Gomez. Table 3 features poker cat Kathy Liebert, while Germany's Benny Spindler will surely be pushing the table around with 4 times as many chips as anyone else. And lastly, our featured table, where Canada's Benny Chen is currently chip leader. Hafiz Khan is reasonably comfortable, while Vicky Corrin is in a lot of trouble with just 67K. Let's get back to the table and see how she's getting on.
Vicky with a small, very modest double up just before the break.
Well, like you said, Ali, you know, a chip in a chair. When you're in one of these tournaments, you can never quit, you can never give up. She's under 100,000, but, you know, it's a hop, step, and a jump to $1 million.
Stranger things have indeed happened in this crazy game of poker. 7-5 off suit for Vicky.
All right, Andy's going to pass. It's over to Vicky now.
Let's make it 65,500.
Vicky says, let's make it 65,000.
She didn't need to do this here, did she?
Well, she's playing aggressive, trying to make some moves, get back into the game, steal some blinds. Yeah, of course she didn't need to. Hopefully trying to use her conservative image to bully the blinds a little bit, but not the best hand to do it with. If she gets called, she'll certainly be behind. At this point, just desperately hoping to pick at the blinds, and that's not going to happen. So we see Justin Rollo moving all in with ace-10 of clubs behind Vicky Corrin. Going to give her a little protection. He's got over 300,000, but uh-oh. Baker picks up queens. Now both Justin Rollo and Vicky Corrin on the verge of elimination this hand.
Neither of you have a chance in hell. Give me the money now. I mean, seriously, their hands have no chance here.
Vicky, you know you have 7-5, right?
Don't tell her that.
Quite a climb. She's going to need to get very lucky to win this pot.
Let's see the flop, please.
Well, here is the flop.
Flop
It is Deuce, King, 5. Pair of 5s for Vicky.
Well, she's
Queen
halfway
still
there.
out in front.
Right, she's got the 5. Now she needs to catch a 5 or a 7. Justin Rollo, he'll need backdoor clubs or an ace.
Jack of clubs there, I'm sure.
You'd have to say for Baker, a very good opportunity here to bust 2 players and pick up this over $700,000 pot.
Deuce doesn't change much.
It does for Vicky. Unfortunately, now Vicky can't catch that 7. It's going to have to be a 5 for her. For Justin Rollo, an ace. Otherwise, Baker will in fact eliminate 2 players on this hand.
It's a 7.
The 7 on the end.
I was something inevitable about the fact that it would be a 7.
She's so annoyed. She made 7s and 5s, but unfortunately, that's going to lose to the queens and deuces.
Both Corin and Rollo have been eliminated, taking home $40,000 apiece, and that is one healthy pot over to the already healthy stack of David Baker.
Let's go to the beach.
Well, with that pot, Baker is nearing the 2 million chip mark in this tournament and looking poised to make a deep run all the way to the final table.
Our Kara Scott's with Vicky Corin.
How do you think you played today? I know it's only sort of a half an hour in here.
Oh, well, I mean, I didn't really have much choice. I found a pair, which is more than I did yesterday. You know, I've got to play that hand, and you know, he had a better hand. That's fine. The weird thing about the last hand is, if David hadn't woken up with 2 queens, I actually would have doubled up. Amazing. I kind of knew it was going to be a 7 on the river.
Yeah.
I actually knew that. But
if that other 2 hadn't hit as well, if the board hadn't paired like that, you actually would have tripled up. So congratulations on a 30th place finish through a huge field, and we'll see you again very soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
American Dan Heimiller is wasting no time, raising it up with 9-7 offsuit. He has joined our feature table.
Well, Dan's a very, very aggressive player. He likes to play shorthanded. There's only 7 at the table. He's going to play a lot of pots. 9-7 offsuit. Again, not a very good hand, but he's literally just trying to steal the blinds with this hand. So far, so good.
Uh-oh, Daniel, we've got an update from one of our outer tables. Canadian Todd Sisley, one of your countrymen, he's bowing out in 28th. And the American David Baker, over 1.7 million in front of him. He's got pocket 10s and looking to add to it.
He's going to play carefully, just calling here rather than re-raising. He's got Dan Heimiller pretty much dominated as well as you can before the flop.
Let's see it, please.
Here comes the flop. 6, Jack, 8, all diamonds.
Well, this is an interesting flop here. Baker has the pair of 10s as well as the flush draw. Dan Heimiller has an open and a straight draw, but with 3 diamonds there, it's kind of like blah. You don't really want to have a straight draw when there's already a flush on board. Doesn't look like it's going to stop him, does it?
He's not looking to slow down one bit. Fires the continuation bet, pot up to almost 200,000 now.
Well, I don't think he's going to be able to get this bet past Baker just yet. Seeing as Baker has the pocket pair, he also has the flush draw.
David's going to make the call of 60,000.
And he also has a lot of chips, too, so he can afford to make this call rather liberally.
Apiece, they're going to see the turn.
Over a $250,000 out there now. King of Hearts on the turn.
Well, that's a card that might just scare Baker a little bit. It's yet another overcard to his pocket 10s. He's going to continue to play cautiously and check it on over to Heimiller. Question is, does Heimiller have a second bullet? Will he bluff it again?
130.
And the answer is yes.
Yeah. Dan has a loaded gun. I've played a lot of poker with Dan Heimiller, and he is not afraid to put in that second bet. Now
you got to wonder how much felt time Baker has with Heimiller, because if he knows
just showed up
like
at the table. This is what makes it difficult. Dan Heimiller just sat down. He doesn't know a lot about his game.
David's going to pass,
and it's going to work. Wow, Dan Heimiller, drawing virtually dead here with 9-7 against 2 10s, is able to bully his way to winning a pot, and welcome to the table, Dan Heimiller. Pretty impressive bluff there.
We're going to pick up some action at an outer table here. The Dutchman Peter Thielen has aces against ace, king, and pocket 7s. He's looking good as of the flop. The turn looks safe as well. And Brian Paris checks out in 27th, while Dustin Dirksen takes a huge hit.
So with 26 players remaining, let's delve a little deeper into some of the characters at our featured table. Hafa Hafizul Khan is a 34-year-old ex-software analyst from California. We, of course, remember him from last year, where he was runner-up to Elke here at the PCA and took home over $1 million.
Pretty much a life-changing type score, you know, and it was my first big live tournament, and happy to make so much money, and I made a mistake at the end, and so I've regretted that all year. I underestimated the value of the championship. So kind of hard to one up from second to first, but that's my goal, you know, and that's why I came back.
Dan Heimiller is a semi-pro from Las Vegas. He lists taxi driver and pizza delivery as previous occupations, but we're not quite sure whether to believe him. During his 36 years in poker, he's won over 30 online tournaments, over $1.7 million in tournament winnings, and has more WSOP cashes than Brunson, Negreanu, and Ivy.
This would be big for me.
In seat 4 is Andy Bandanaman Fitzpatrick from Arizona.
Final table would just be exciting right now. Just to get through the rest of it, it would just be exciting.
So he's excited then. He's 31 and married to Dawn and has a 2-year-old daughter, Corin Kate. His profession is real estate.
To win this title would mean the world.
He's loved playing under the TV lights because he got to play with his poker heroine, Vicky Corin. Only one player will have the perfect ending to their Caribbean adventure, though. Who will it be?
I went to London. I dusted off.
Back at our feature table where the blinds are 10 and 20,000 with a $2,000 ante.
There you see a shot at Dan Heimiller. Just sat down at the table, pulled off a pretty impressive bluff right off the bat. It's always an interesting ploy when you sit down at a new table with new players. Generally, players like to be a little more careful. Dan Heimiller, different breed.
Pocket threes. If 9-7 offsuit will work, pocket threes have got to work.
You'd think, wouldn't you?
And in he comes for a raise to 70,000.
This hand is a little more legitimate, obviously, than the 9-7.
Now that's over 3 times the big blind, Daniel. Is that maybe a touch bigger than you need to put in to get the same result?
Well, obviously, I have a very different brand of poker and don't ever do stuff like that, but Dan's a little old school. He's going to get played with, it looks like here. Chen now with ace-queen. He doesn't know a lot about Heimiller likely because he just sat down at the table, but he did see him play one hand already rather aggressively, so he's definitely going to play an ace-queen, but electing to be cautious rather than re-raising.
Yeah, Heimiller feels like the kind of guy you don't want to get into a big pot against.
Well, he's very tricky, thinks in an abstract way, does a lot of bizarre things sometimes, so it'll be tough to play against.
Good looking flop for the Canadian, top pair, top kicker. 3 overcards to the 3s for Dan Heimiller, and he's going to cede control here.
Well, it's going to go check, check. Chen looking to slow play on the flop, trying to get some action from Heimiller on later streets.
9 of spades on the turn.
Well, Dan can't love that card. It hits the 10-jack. If his opponent had something like 9-10 suited or jack-9 suited, he'd now have a pair. So Dan's got to decide here, you know what, could my 3s be good? Should I bother betting or just play a small pot?
Yeah, if he thinks he's up against a naked ace high, he doesn't want to let his opponent take another card off, and he's going to fire a barrel out here.
95,000, and it looks like, Heimiller must have thought that he was up against an ace high. He is wrong.
He's been called, and ooh, almost a 3. Not quite, though. Board pairs.
Well, Dan should probably check in this spot and hope that his 2 3s are good.
And he has checked it.
Question is, for Chen now, you got a value bet here. How much? How much do you think you can squeeze out of Dan Heimiller? Can't call too much with just a pair of 3s, so you don't want to get too greedy in this spot.
Just under 400,000 in the pot, and he's going to bet 130.
Well, I actually really like the bet size a lot. He might get a loose call from Dan Heimiller, who might put his opponent on something like a missed flush draw or just some sort of
ace high maybe,
king 10 type hand, something along those lines. Dan's got to really go through this hand and think, what could this guy check on the flop, call me on the turn, and bet the river with that I can beat? He's not going to come up with a lot of hands, but he might just come up with one and make a little bit of a loosey-goosey call. He's going through the possibilities in his head. He's just having trouble with this one. Seemed like a relatively easy laydown, but he's looking at the math. He's getting a decent price on the call. Ugh, he doesn't want to do it.
Well, Chen did take a bit of a peculiar line on the hand, and that's going to earn him a call on the end $634,000 pot over to the young Canadian.
See, that's one of the things when you first sit down at a table, as Dan Heimiller did, he doesn't have a lot of information on his opponents. Had he played with Chen a little longer, maybe he would have known, you know what, probably shouldn't call that bet. It's tough to sit down with 6 or 7 new faces and play perfectly. So Chen picking up a nice pot there, slow playing the flop with top pair.
Benny Chen's biggest win to date, a $95,000 score at the Bellagio in a $2,000 buy-in event. Just 28 years of age, former restaurant manager. This is a step up, huh?
Yeah, if he wins $3 million, he might open up a whole new chain. Chen's line of, no, never mind.
Frozen foods.
Here we see another ace-queen in the hands of Paul Green.
Let's see how the Americans decide to play these things.
Coming in for $55,000, a little bit smaller than you noticed Dan Heimiller coming in. Certainly a raise size that's more appropriate, in my opinion.
And the reason being, you can get the same result out of $55,000 that you can out of 70 as long as you're consistent with it, right?
For the most part, small ball, the whole strategy behind it is less is more. When you can get away with less, you often should. And now he's probably going to get a call here, as you see, from the big blind here, Fitzpatrick, who's got a Jack-10. And this is not a bad situation. You know, you've got position with the ace-queen, the best hand. You've got a caller. You've got an interesting flop now.
8 ace jack, top pair for Paul Green, middle pair for Andy Fitzpatrick. He's checked it over to Paul.
Well, Paul's got to like this flop here. He's got top pair with a queen kicker. He also has the queen of hearts to protect against some sort of flushes. He's usually going to want to protect it, and he bets $70,000. Again, I like the bet size. He bet 55 before the flop, 70 on the flop. Trying to keep the bets manageable. Possibly could induce Fitzpatrick to make a move here. He does have middle pair. He might feel like that's the best hand.
Now, even if you think your opponent has an ace in this spot, it's still appropriate to tear one off, isn't it?
Usually, I mean, unless you're really certain. If the bet's relatively small, you've got middle pair. He's got some backdoor outs, as you can see, with the 10 of hearts in his hand. Catch a 9, can make a straight draw.
284,000 in the pot now, and the queen on the turn gives a double gut shot straight draw to Andy, but top 2 pair for Paul Green.
Absolutely. Now that's an interesting card because it's helped Fitzpatrick in a sense, although it's also putting an overcard out there. It looks like he might want to take the lead. This is what we call a weak lead, where you check and call the flop and then bet out the turn in a situation where you're going to call anyway. So he's betting the draw, but quickly he's going to go, oops, this ain't going to work so well, is it? Because Paul Green is saying, you know what, I got aces and queens, and you're not getting to the river cheaply on my watch.
Yeah, if you got 9-10 or king-10, congrats, but otherwise, stick your stack in.
The attempt there from Fitzpatrick failed. He was hoping to see the river cheaply. Instead, he threw out the bet and is not even able to see the river card. Makes the good laydown.
He knows what I have. I said, you know what I have.
He's got the chips, and that's all that really matters.
I thought I was dead.
Welcome back to the PokerStars Caribbean Adventure in the Bahamas, where the $3 million top prize is still anyone's for the taking. Nearly 1,400 players have traveled here to be part of the Festival of Poker. We've witnessed a nail-biting finale to the World Cup. Team Germany took that down. The big guns are out in force for the PCA High Roller event.
I guess everybody was rooting for me over here, right?
This is unreal.
And now it's the penultimate day of the PCA main event. For 1 week only, the Atlantis Resort has something to offer every kind of player. Young, old, amateur, seasoned pro, supernova, or small stakes newbie. If you're crazy for cards, there's nowhere better in the world to be right now.
I'm crazy for cards, so I must be in the right spot.
Well, here we are at our featured table. Got Chen, who's headed in the right direction here with an ace-8.
Decent sized stack in front of that young man. Over 2 million, chip leader at the table.
He's going to get aggressive now, making it 50,000, going after those blinds. Applying the pressure. King, Queen of Hearts, kind of a fun hand.
Definitely playable for Jason Pastor.
Jason Pastor also over $1 million in chips here at our featured table.
Now, how much does that factor in when you're deciding to play a pot against an opponent, how big their stack is?
It's always a thought, because if your opponent has a deep stack, you can play hands that might potentially have a big gain in the sense that, you know, you can bust them like a hand like 6-7 or 5-6 suited. However, if you're up against a guy with no chips, well, that wouldn't make any sense because you couldn't get your payoff. So you should always be concerned with how many chips your opponents have. You see here Paul Green coming in with a hand like 4 or 5 of clubs. This is a perfect kind of hand where if he hits the right flop against a hand like aces or kings, he might be able to double up in a big, big pot.
An example of exactly what you were just talking about. We're going to take this flop 3 ways with 164,000 out there. It is 5-6 king with 2 hearts. Huge flop for Jason Pastor.
Well, if you're going to play king, queen of hearts, you kind of don't mind when the flop comes king and 2 hearts. As for Paul Green, he's got bottom pair. Chen completely misses this board. But the action's going to be on him, and since he was the pre-flop raiser, he's going to go ahead and take a stab by betting 85,000. Question is now, how does Paul Green want to play this hand? There's a couple ways he could do it. He could look to play a big pot now, but instead he elects to just smooth call, take it slowly, possibly trying to bring in a third player.
Paul wisely letting go of his 5s.
So Chen in bad shape right here. He's going to have to catch an ace that's not a heart.
And here's the turn card, the 9 of diamonds.
Well, now Chen has a gut shot straight draw, but no pair. As we can see there, Pastor just totally owning this board. You know, top pair and a flush draw. But Chen possibly looking to take him off the hand.
That's 7.
Asking for a chip count.
A little over 7.
Pastor says he's got a little over 700,000. So Chen has to decide now. No, and he's going to check. He gives up. He's going to take his free card and try to catch that 7 or the ace. Pastor playing passively.
Oh, and now Benny Chen has made a pair of 8s on the river.
That's a dangerous card for Pastor. At this point, Chen coming in with a raise for the flop. He could have anything, so he's just going to check his king and hope that it's good. And it is.
Benny Chen checking his 8s behind.
So Pastor playing passively, as I said, but as it turned out, he wasn't going to get much action out of Chen, who really didn't have much of a hand anyways. Chen's like, all right, wow. Big hand, man. How come you weren't betting?
Jason Pastor up to 1.1 million and change in his stack. He describes himself as an aggressive player. We didn't see much of it there. Just 22 years of age. Native of Marlborough, New Jersey, whose ambition is to travel the world. Bahamas, not a bad stop. Blinds are steady at 10 and 20,000 with a $2,000 ante.
You know, while the blinds are high, the stacks are relatively deep. These players can still play poker, still look to attack blinds, play some small ball kind of poker, especially this man, Baker, who's got a very healthy stack of chips. Been playing very well so far.
We're not shooting craps just yet.
No, absolutely not. And there you get a shot of Hafiz Khan, runner-up last year at the PCA. Almost won it, and he's back again, really deep, down to the nitty-gritty. Picked up a pair of 4s here and made it 55,000.
He'll pass as well. Jason's button.
Miller gets out of the way.
Pastor ducking out as well. 10-6 suited for Paul.
Well, this is a stretch of a hand. It's not exactly a good hand, but sometimes when you're in the blind, you want to play a little looser. Asking for a chip count from Hafi. And he says, you know what? Yeah, you can have it.
Queen 10 offsuit for Benny Chen in the big blind. Will he choose to defend?
Well, he certainly has enough chips to make the call here. But he's going to play, he's going to give a lot of respect there to the runner-up from last year and fold the Queen 10 in the big blind. A lot of players would have definitely defended there, but Hafi gets away with the steal.
Hafiz Khan, former software analyst turned poker professional, now makes his home in California.
The joy of No Limit Texas Hold'em is that you can win without the best hand by making a bet no one else is prepared to call.
It's a race.
And Dario re-raise.
It's called bluffing, and it's an art form that if executed well, it rocks.
I'm all in.
That's audacious. Right back over the top.
That's very suspicious. Okay, I thought.
If it goes wrong, it sucks.
Uh-oh.
Oh my goodness.
No out for Pablo Ubierna. He's out the tournament.
Pick your moments carefully and choose your opponents wisely because timing is key. Once you're happy, pull the trigger with a bet or raise with next to nothing and watch them fold. It's the best feeling in poker. Bluffing can be a risky business, but if you get it right, it will maximize your profits.
There's no way on earth you can call.
That's put him right back in the driving seat.
You might even want to show a bluff or two. It could encourage people to bet into you later on when you do have the best hand. How can you tell when someone else is bluffing or when they're strong? There are ways, and one of them is looking for tells.
I think every player gives away tells.
Tells are pieces of information given off by a player at the table semi-consciously. They can be detectable changes in a player's behavior, their body language.
So you notice how Elke's breathing looks like he's shallower now? Elke calls. Which is a sign of adrenaline release that he has a big hand.
However, be aware of conscious tells known as reverse tells or double bluffs. These are commonly used by more experienced players to deceive you and lead you up the garden path.
That run away when I come looking for you, right?
Either that or none of us have any fans.
Former main event champion Joe Hashem
People get free T-shirts if they sit. People
also participated in this event, not amongst our final 26, however.
Yeah.
Well, there were a lot of big names out here. As you mentioned earlier, over 1,300 entries in this tournament.
And this is one of those events where the 18 and up players are allowed to come out and participate, so you get these big fields and a lot of talented young online pros.
They're all right.
Dan Heimiller with ace-4 off.
Well, Dan's been frisky since joining our feature table here. He's not going to disappoint. This time coming in for 55,000, really sort of mixing up his raise sizes quite a bit. 70, 60, 55.
Not a lot of rhyme or reason to what he's doing, is there?
Just the way he thinks is very chaotic and abstract, as I mentioned.
Not quite as chaotic or abstract is Benny Chen, the Canadian.
Well, Benny here has the best hand with 2 6s. He's in position on the button. He's just going to play it careful and make the call. Well, Hafiz is not going to play the 3-7 offsuit, so we're going to have a heads-up pot between Benny Chen and Dan Heimiller. Chen in position, the best hand.
Can't ask for more than that.
No.
And the biggest stack.
2 of clubs, 9 of clubs.
He won round 1 of this duel. Deuce 9-5 on the board, 3 clubs.
Well, that's a good flop for Chen. He's got the best flush draw with the 6 of clubs, still has the best hand. Heimiller, the only way he could win this really is to catch the 3, the ace, or he could pull off one of his miraculous bluffs one more time.
Yeah, worked against David Baker's pocket 10s on the turn earlier.
You see Benny Chen protecting his hand. Bet a 67,000. Heimiller kind of has to like that flop a little bit too, though, because he has a straight draw. He's got a club. He's got ace high. When he checked, he wasn't checking with the intention of saying, you got it.
Going to raise to 140,000 straight.
Wow.
Dan Heimiller is check raising here.
So Heimiller looking to steal this pot from Benny Chen. Heimiller's gotten away with 1 already at the feature table. Will he get away with another one? You would expect Benny Chen to at least call one time, unless he's really worried that he's drawing dead. It's possible that Dan Heimiller might have a hand like Queen 10 of clubs. That's what he's got to be thinking in his mind right now. Thinking, do I really want to mess with Heimiller?
A 9 with perhaps a bigger club in his hand as well, possible.
A lot of hands that could be in front of him. Dan looking to steal this pot, not giving anything away. Well, it looks like Benny Chen really doesn't like it. He's going to throw it away. So once again, Dan Heimiller doesn't need to catch his card because he's the aggressor. Going for a check raise on that flop, and Benny Chen wondering, did I just get bluffed? Yep, yes you did, Benny Chen. You just got bluffed.
Dan Heimiller's stack up to over 1.5 million, but the biggest stack in the event belongs to Kevin Saul.
Leading the pack then, we just saw him. The USA's Kevin Saul with 2.3 million in chips. In fact, the Americans are dominating the top 8 right now. The only non-US citizens, the 2 Bennies, are in great shape. Chen is in 2nd place and Spindler in 3rd.
Picking up some action at the outer tables. The Brazilian Alexander Gomez with pocket kings up against Antonio Buetis, pocket nines.
Buetis going to need a 9 to stay alive. He's all in here.
No help on the flop, a bit of hope on the turn, but he's iced on the end. And he'll take home $40,000 for his 26th place finish. Just another day at the office for Alexander Gomez, and as poker players will tell you, the office can be anywhere.
2007, I was invited to Cannes.
Gentlemen's Club and a gay bar.
You know, and this is like mind-blowing stuff.
I used to play at Larry Flint's house.
My law professor's basement.
Playing poker on an airplane.
Online on the beach with a great wireless connection.
Angelina Jolie.
I haven't really played outside a casino.
Oh, wow. There's, you know, Spielberg.
Me and a couple of girlfriends of mine.
Matt Damon and...
play strip pokers.
I was like glad I was the first one eliminated because I just wanted out of this stuffy, nasty room.
George Clooney playing a sit and go for $100 US with all these movie stars.
I would say probably in my room, but don't ask me anything else.
It was a very surreal night, you know, one to remember forever.
Hollywood celebrities have become quite big fans of poker.
Well, I mean, they play poker. They're just like you and me, you know, Ali. They put their pants on one leg at a time, you know. Sometimes they have their assistants do it, which might be a little bit different, but pretty normal people.
We got a dinner break?
We do have a dinner break. Well, because we have to give the TV crew.
King 6 suited for Paul Green.
In 90 minutes?
The hand you might want to steal the blinds with, but he says, nah, I can wait. He's got enough chips to play a little more patiently than that. Don't expect to see Benny Chen play a deuce 5. Unless it was suited, maybe.
By and large, it's been disciplined poker here at the feature table, though.
For the most part, you know, this is the nitty-gritty now. We're getting down to it. Everyone's trying to make their run at the final table. Nobody wants to make a big misstep. You see here Baker picking up just a really weak ace, but big stack of chips, relatively good position. He's going to go for a blind steal. But he's run into a little hand here. Hafi's got sevens.
He's going to make the call of 51,000.
He's just going to call. All the new young players are really understanding better how to play these pairs. I remember there was a time in poker where people were always re-raising or folding with these hands, but calling can often be the right approach.
Ace-king now in the hands of Jason Pastor.
With a raise and a call, it's a little more tempting now for Pastor to go for the re-raise because there's a little bit extra meat, if you will, in that pot. So he might look to re-raise and win the pot before the flop with an ace-king. He'd certainly get it through Baker. Depending how large of a raise, well, Hafi might call with sevens.
Let's see what Jason settles on, taking his time very deliberately, coming up with a figure in his mind. He could, of course, still call here. You never know.
Sure, no question about it. You know, calling's always an option. You know, if he re-raises now and then all of a sudden it's re-raised back to him, what's he going to do? He's going to have to gamble, most likely.
175, 195.
And a re-raise is the decision. 195,000 is the amount.
195,000 total.
So now you're looking at Baker a little suspicious here. He's got ace-3, but nah, he's not going to mess with it.
Pretty easy fold for him. A little tougher for Hafiz.
Yeah, well, the problem with a hand like sevens is if you don't flop a 7 in this spot, you're probably going to have to fold on most flops. If it comes queen 8-3 or king jack 10, something along those lines, then you just have to fold. So the question is it worth it to call the raise just to try to flop a 7? Because you would assume that Pastor's going to go ahead and bet. So it's going to work. The ace-king, aggressive play before the flop. Hafi with the pair. Of course, Baker folding his ace-3.
So close.
Picked up a decent little pot there.
Welcome back to the Atlantis Resort Paradise Island in the Bahamas, where if you've crashed out of the PCA early, a bimble around the lazy river and a couple of water slides will soon lift your spirits.
Danny, would you believe I have not even put my swimsuit on since we've been here? That doesn't mean I went skinny dipping. Relax. I haven't even gotten out to the pool. All work and no play.
Poor Ali Najad, huh? Poor Ali Najad.
It's a tough life, but somebody's got to live it, right? Back to our featured table. Benny Chen is going to take a pass with 10-7 offsuit. David Baker with 10-5 does the same. Probably not going to be a pass for Kahn with ace-7 suited. He'll open the pot for a raise to 51,000. King Jack off now for Andy Fitzpatrick, who we haven't heard much from.
No, I don't love this hand. You do have to play more hands when you're shorthanded, but King Jack offsuit's a dangerous one because if your opponent has a hand like Ace King or Ace Jack or King Queen and you flop your top pair, it's very difficult to get away from sometimes, and you could lose all your chips.
Suited connector in the hands of Jason Pastor.
Now that's a hand I like to play in a situation like this because the same problem is not present.
In the big blind?
Do you have a lot of white chips over there? I can't. Are those all yellows?
Those are yellows.
Yeah.
I have no one.
Okay.
Well, King Jack offsuit is a hand you'd rather be opening the pot.
Sure, it's a hand
raising with than calling.
It's one of those situations where you want to raise with a hand like King Jack, but you have to be very careful and cautious when you're calling raises with these types of hands. And if you're willing to fold if you make top pair and think you're beat.
Well, if there's any consolation to not having the best hand pre-flop for Andy Fitzpatrick, it's having position on Hafiz Khan. And here is the flop, heads up with 146,000 out there. Both players with a piece.
Right, you see there with Khan having the aces and Fitzpatrick a pair and a straight draw. Both players looking to play carefully and check to the turn.
Pot will stay small, and there's a fourth diamond, second on the board.
Hafi's got to love that card. He's also got the flush draw, but again, he's electing to check and play a small pot, possibly looking to pick up a bluff off of Fitzpatrick, but
still no
he's not
action.
biting. Very carefully played so far. You'd expect Hafi to fire at a value bet right now, and he might just get called here because of the way that he's played the hand. He's been so cautious all the way to the river. If you bet something like 80,000, you might see Fitzpatrick look him up. You don't want to get too greedy now.
Fees is going to bet 65,000.
Okay, so 65,000.
Call.
And he's quickly called, so the play works for him. He's able to induce a call on the river by slow playing it all the way down. Fitzpatrick calling really quickly with third pair, so certainly thought he had the best hand when he made that call.
He can definitely fold the end there, can he?
Well, you know what? At least deliberate a little bit. He can only beat a bluff. The way that Hafi played it, it looked to me like he might have an ace or maybe even like a queen or something like that. But, you know, he could have nothing, so can't fault him for calling.
7 players at our feature table. We're playing 10 and 20,000 blind. Tournament poker with a $2,000 ante, and we're going to sweat this one out, Daniel, with Hafiz Khan essentially not going to see any other players' cards, just Hafiz.
Well, this is always fun for the viewers at home. Gives you a chance to get a feel for how it really is to be at one of these tables. So we know now we have ace-10. So what would you do, people at home? I suggest what Hafiz did. It's a good play. He made the raise to about 55,000.
Action on Andy Fitzpatrick, who looks like he's going to call.
Calls pretty quickly, and that's got to scare us a little bit. We have a hand like ace-10. You never really want to see a guy call from early position like that. He might have a better ace than us. He could have ace-jack or ace-queen, possibly a hand like 2 7s or 2 8s. We've got to be very careful unless we flop something pretty good here. Paul Green also looking like he's interested. We just hope he doesn't re-raise. If he re-raises now, we got to take that ace-10 and stick it where it belongs, right in the muck.
55 total.
Paul Green, 24-year-old native of New Jersey. Before playing poker, he was a writer and describes himself as a very aggressive player, but I'm not sure we've seen much of that so far here.
Well, it looks like he's just going to call here also. So now we've got a hand that really just doesn't play all that well multi-way. Ace-10, if you're going to play it, you usually want just one opponent. Now we've got 2. Tread carefully. You don't want to risk too many chips. We went for the blind steal, but got a little resistance. So it's time not to go broke. That's what we should be thinking here if we're Hafiz Khan.
And the flop. Queen, 7, Jack, all clubs.
Well, that's really just not a very good flop for the hand that we have. We don't have a club. It's very likely to hit our opponents who might have a hand like King, Queen, or, you know, Ace, Jack, something to that effect. This is a board where, yeah, I agree with Khan here. It's a hand you just want to check. See a free card. Maybe we'll catch a king. Who knows?
5 of clubs. Yuck.
Well, you know, here's the decision we'd have to make. If it comes to us, do you bluff that or not? But it looks like the jig is going to be up because Paul Green's going to bet at it. And if he bets at it, we don't have a club. We have a player behind us. Blech. I hate everything about the situation. If I was Huffy right now, my cards would be boink, already in the mud. Take a look, see if you got a club. Nope. Sorry, buddy.
They didn't change. Well, now we get a look at the other two hands that are left in this pot.
Not too bad.
Top two pair for Andy Fitzpatrick, but he's going to need to fill up here to beat Paul Green, who's got a club in his hand.
It's interesting. Yes, you do see Paul Green has the flush. Made kind of a risky bet there with just a small flush. Fitzpatrick might think he's bluffing and his top two pair is the best hand.
Well, for Fitzpatrick here, do you want to just call and hope that you get there, or do you want to maybe make a play at this spot?
Well, making a play at this spot is something I would never make, but it looks like Fitzpatrick is, and it's going to work. That one's not in my repertoire right there.
You feel like you're only getting called by a
pretty
better
risky
hand,
there.
right?
You figure, you know, I guess if you don't put the guy in the ace of clubs, you can make that play, but you'd think, hey, if he had the ace of clubs, how come he didn't bet the flop? So risky move there for Fitzpatrick, but it pays off because he gets the money.
We've got a developing pot at one of our outer tables. Canadian Elizabeth Bennett Martin is up against Russian Albert Minilin. It's ace-queen for Minilin and king-8 for Bennett Martin, whose tournament life is at stake.
Well, she was short on chips, had to make a move. And she's got a chance here, just about a 2-to-1 underdog. Yeah, not anymore.
You were saying something about a chance?
Yeah, not anymore. She's
9 of hearts will
eliminated.
ice it on the turn, and Elizabeth Bennett Martin will finish in 25th place, taking home $40,000 and leaving American Kathy Liebert as the last female left in the event.
So now we have just 24 contenders for the PCA title, of which these are the top 8. Kevin Saul is still out in front with nearly $2.8 million in chips, with the two Bennies completing the top 3. In general, it's pretty tight at the top, so this tournament is still anyone's for the taking. So after 3 days play, we've reached the final 24 players here at the PCA main event. One of them's going to walk away with a life-changing sum of money. Join us next time when we reach the final 16, and until then, I'm off to look for buried treasure. Has anyone seen my shovel?